America's about to go to war. And when she goes to war, she wants black and brown bodies. Now you're useful.
America may be on the brink of war. In moments like this, rhetoric sharpens. Leaders begin speaking in the language of deterrence. Markets start reacting before missiles ever fly. And when tensions involving Iran escalate, the consequences rarely stay contained. Reports from Iranian state media and international outlets suggest that Iran's supreme leader, Ali Khamenei, has been killed. If confirmed, that would mark a seismic shift in regional stability. But even before confirmation, the reaction itself is already shaping global behavior. And this is where Africa must pay attention. Because while this confrontation may seem geographically distant, its economic, diplomatic, and human consequences are not. Escalation is a process, not a moment. Major crises rarely begin with a single explosion. They unfold in sequences. Hardened statements, repositioned military assets, airspace restrictions, intelligence coordination, financial market volatility. Individually, these steps may not signal world war. Together, they indicate entry into a high-risk phase. When leaders declare that aggression will not go unanswered, those are not casual words. They are signals to adversaries, allies, investors, energy traders, and military planners. And when red lines become visible, miscalculation becomes possible. The region at the center of this tension is not just another geopolitical arena. It sits at the crossroads of global energy supply, strategic shipping corridors, and military alliances. Instability here travels fast. Markets understood that immediately. Energy futures turned volatile within hours. Analysts shifted from routine commentary to risk modeling. The language changed from localized tension to containment risk. Markets do not wait for catastrophe. They price probability. And when probability shifts in a region that influences global oil flows, trade corridors, and financial confidence, investors and insurers begin recalculating exposure. African economies are especially sensitive to this recalculation. The oil shock transmission. Iran borders the Strait of Hormuz, a narrow maritime corridor through which roughly 1/5 of the world's traded oil passes daily. This is not symbolic geography. It is mechanical leverage. The strait does not need to close for oil prices to rise. It only needs to look uncertain. Energy markets operate on anticipation. If tension increases, traders assume higher insurance costs, shipping delays, or worst-case disruption scenarios. Futures contracts adjust immediately. For many African countries, that adjustment hits hard. Even oil-producing African states often import refined petroleum due to limited domestic refining capacity. When crude prices rise, transport costs increase. Food distribution becomes more expensive. Electricity generation costs rise. Fertilizer prices climb. Manufacturing margins shrink. Energy shocks compound quickly. Governments then face a difficult choice. Absorb higher fuel costs through subsidies, straining public finances, or pass costs to consumers, fueling inflation and social pressure. Oil exporters may enjoy temporary revenue gains, but even they face volatility risks. Higher prices can reduce global demand. Currency fluctuations can erase gains. Domestic subsidy systems can still create internal strain. For oil-importing African nations, the squeeze is immediate. Shipping, trade, and food security. Energy is only the first layer. The Middle East also anchors major global trade routes linking Asia, Europe, and Africa. Large volumes of African imports, wheat, rice, pharmaceuticals, machinery, industrial components, move through nearby maritime corridors. When geopolitical tension rises, maritime insurers increase premiums. Shipping companies pass those costs to importers. Freight rates climb. Small increases accumulate. Higher freight costs raise food import bills. Many African nations import significant portions of their grain supply. If shipping costs rise while oil prices remain elevated, food prices follow. Governments must either absorb the cost, straining budgets, or allow prices to adjust upward, straining households. Industrial growth also suffers. Manufacturing sectors depend on imported equipment and intermediate goods. Construction materials become more expensive. Infrastructure timelines stretch. Private investors grow cautious. Trade operates on predictability. Sustained tension undermines predictability. And in modern economics, even the anticipation of disruption reshapes behavior. Capital flight and currency pressure. When geopolitical risk intensifies, global capital moves. Investors shift funds toward perceived safe havens. Major reserve currencies strengthen. Emerging markets often experience withdrawals first. For African economies dependent on external financing, this shift can trigger currency depreciation, rising import costs, higher inflation, increased debt servicing burdens. Many sovereign and corporate debts are denominated in foreign currency. When local currencies weaken, repayment costs rise in domestic terms. Central banks may raise interest rates to defend currencies. That can stabilize exchange rates, but at the cost of slower growth. Borrowing becomes more expensive. Business expansion plans pause. Small enterprises feel credit tightening quickly. Bond yields rise to compensate for perceived risk. Infrastructure financing grows more expensive. Development projects face delays. This is financial contagion without a battlefield. Markets react not only to events, but to expectations. If escalation appears prolonged, risk premiums embed themselves into valuations. Uncertainty spreads faster than missiles. The human layer, African workers abroad. Beyond markets lies the human dimension. Millions of African workers are employed across Gulf economies and the wider Middle East in construction, logistics, healthcare, domestic services, and energy-linked industries. Every month, billions in remittances flow back to families in Nigeria, Kenya, Ethiopia, Ghana, Senegal, and beyond. In several countries, remittances account for a substantial share of GDP. These flows are not abstract. They pay school fees. They fund medical care. They support small businesses. They sustain rural households. When regional tension rises, businesses delay expansion. Infrastructure projects slow. Hiring freezes become more common. Overtime shrinks. Contract renewals become selective. None of this requires open war. It only requires uncertainty. If remittance inflows slow while local currencies are already weakening, the strain compounds. Foreign exchange reserves grow more sensitive. Governments recalibrate fiscal assumptions. Migration policies may also shift under pressure. Regulatory environments can tighten. Labor demand may adjust. Diaspora links create a direct economic bridge between regional stability and African domestic life. And when that bridge weakens, households feel it first. Diplomatic pressure and strategic leverage. When major powers escalate, global politics hardens. Votes become statements. Silence becomes strategy. Africa holds 54 votes in international forums. That is not symbolic, it is arithmetic. In tightly divided geopolitical moments, arithmetic matters. Major powers will seek alignment, reassurance, diplomatic language that reinforces their narratives. Investment flows, defense cooperation, and development financing may become part of broader strategic positioning. This can create pressure, but also opportunity. Energy exporters matter more in volatile times. Maritime states matter more. Countries rich in strategic minerals matter more. Nations positioned along key corridors gain relevance. Relevance can translate into leverage if managed carefully. African governments now face layered decisions. Protect economic stability. Maintain diversified partnerships. Avoid diplomatic entanglement. Secure investment without compromising autonomy. These decisions interact with energy volatility, trade strain, currency pressure, and diaspora vulnerability. This is not a distant crisis. It is a structural event inside an interconnected system. Africa is not a spectator. The confrontation may de-escalate. It may stabilize into tense equilibrium. It may evolve into prolonged strategic rivalry rather than open conflict. But even if the battlefield remains contained, the aftershocks are already moving through. Energy markets, shipping corridors, financial systems, remittance flows, diplomatic arenas. Africa is not outside this system. It is embedded within it. The question is no longer whether the continent will feel the impact. The real question is whether African policymakers, institutions, and citizens recognize early signals and respond quickly enough to protect stability and maximize leverage. In global politics, timing determines strength. Those who anticipate negotiate from advantage. Those who react late absorb the cost. So as this escalation unfolds and global blocs test loyalties and influence, the defining question remains. Will Africa merely endure the shockwaves, or strategically position itself in a shifting world order? Let us know what you think Africa should do now. If you want more analysis on global power shifts, African strategy, and untold geopolitical realities, subscribe and stay tuned.